What's up, y'all? It's your boy Creepy. Nerds Rule the World just got out of a screening of Sinners. Initial thoughts coming out of Sinners. I can't try to moderate my expectations because I'm such a Ryan Coogler fan. I didn't want it to fail, so I didn't want to keep it up too high. But one of the best vampire films I've ever seen. Really dope. Shout out to Ryan Coogler. Shout out to Hailee Steinfeld, Michael B. Jordan. The whole ensemble cast was great. We'll be talking about this film. Got to review this film. But yeah, recommend Sinners, y'all. Great film. About 2.5 hours, but it went by so quick, so smooth. It's just like you get ingrained into the characters. But we'll talk about it on the review. But yeah, Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan, Hailee Steinfeld, Delroy Lindo, bunch of cats. Everybody was great. Check out Sinners, y'all. Your boy QP, Nerds Rule the World. What's up, y'all? It's your boy QP, Nerds Rule the World, and my pal Webster Style here to review the film Sinners, which is, as of this recording, it's out now and just getting all the attention. So well deserved. My fingers were crossed. I had the press screening set up, but because I went on vacation, as y'all might have known if y'all been watching the channel, I didn't go to the initial press screening, so I saw it after. But been hearing all the buzz, and my fingers were crossed because I'm a Ryan Coogler fan. But I was skeptical, and I think I brought this up to Webster Style. I don't know if we had recorded on that time, but he and I were talking about it. But my man Webster Style, let's get into it before we drop the trailer and get into our review. When you first heard of this film, Ryan Coogler, Beast, man, Fruitvale Station, Creed, Black Panther. What were your initial thoughts when you heard about him dropping this film with Michael B. Jordan?
I was excited because it was a vampire movie, and vampires are probably my favorite movie monster. And I feel like, for the most part, in mainstream, you have your stuff like the Vortelackers on Shudder. And while I haven't seen that, like just watching previews and learning more about that movie, it's a different take on a vampire sort of mythos. But he's a vampire. But anyway, I was excited because I think that we have not had a really sort of good, like we had on Abigail, which I haven't seen, but I heard was pretty good, but we haven't had like a stream of really good vampire movies. Say both of us kids in the 80s, we had great vampire movies back then, horror movies. So I was really excited for this. And when they dropped that initial trailer, I was like, oh yeah, man, I'm locked in. Like I will see this. Like I think I feel like we reacted to the trailer. I'm not sure. But I said, yeah, first weekend, I'm going to see this. And sure enough, that's what happened.
Yeah, for me, I was hyped, but also nervous. I don't know if it was with you, but again, Coogler has established himself working on a bunch of IPs. Black Panther, Fruitvale Station is based on a true story.
Right.
Creed is an IP. So this was his first original project. And as a fan of the man, I wanted him to be successful, but you're always just a little bit nervous when he's not
true.
working. He's got to prove himself. So, you just a little hesitation. Will he prove himself? And as of this recording, the love is there. And we'll talk on our thoughts in a second. But let's check out the trailer and we'll dig in a little bit more. You ready, brother?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. Sinners in theaters now.
I've been all over this world. I seen men die in ways I ain't even know was possible. Love you, brother. Be careful. I will. With all the things that I've seen, I ain't ever seen no demons, no ghosts, no magic. Till now. Now get back inside. Let me in, man! Some weird shit going on out here!
You keep dancing with the devil. One day he's gonna follow you home.
All right, there you go. In theaters again as of this recording right now.
Let me tell you, watching this trailer again after seeing the movie, I have so much more of appreciation. Like the trailer was bomb before, but seeing how it was cut and put together, you literally don't know what's happening in this movie from this trailer. And I think to some degree, the trailer gives you maybe a false expectation of the movie, which in a good way. There's a lot of misdirection because a lot of scenes are out of order. And
Yes.
especially with the voiceover. The trailer, I have such a much more of an appreciation for how good that trailer is now.
Yeah, glad they did that because a lot of times trailers will spoil the entire movie. They'll
Right.
give everything away.
Right.
Yes, well said, sir. I'm gonna give a brief, very glazed over synopsis because this film has very what makes this film great is its layers.
Yes.
And also as people of color. There's a lot that really dig into some stuff. So I'm gonna give a brief synopsis, talk a little bit about the cast and crew, and then we'll just get into our review. So you ready to rock and roll with that,
Yes, sir.
Eldon? All right. So let me talk about the cast and crew real quick. The leads in this film, and as always, if you haven't seen a review before, we're gonna give kind of like the top cast and main crew. But it takes a village. And there's many people involved with this production. So while we may not mention them, all of them deserve their flowers. We're throwing at them virtually because it takes a village to give us something beautiful, to give us a work of art. So shout out to everyone involved with this film. Your writer director is the man himself, Ryan Coogler, who I'm a huge fan of. He put this all together as a writer and director. Your lead stars in this are Miles Caton, who plays Sammy Moore. Of course, Michael B. Jordan, who plays Smoke and Stack, a dual role there. We have Jayme Lawson, who plays Pearline. Hailee Steinfeld, who plays Mary. Omar Benson Miller, who plays Cornbread. Delroy Lindo, who plays Delta Slim. Bo Chow is played by Yao. We also have, where am I missing some of the names here? Wunmi Mosaku, who plays Annie, and Lee Jun Lee, who plays Grace Chow. Again, that's just a brief synopsis of some of the actors that played. Oh, you know what? Let me give Theodis Crane, who's one of the bouncers. He's been on the NRW. We've interviewed him before. He was part of The Walking Dead way back when, and he's also one of the bouncers in this film. So just want to shout out Theo real quick. But that's your cast, your crew. Again, shout out to everyone involved. On
Yeah, I talked to him at AwesomeCon years ago. He was a cool cat.
You know, you remember
Yeah.
Theodis. Shout out to Theo. So yeah, that's your main cast, your crew. For your synopsis, again, very brief. We have Smoke and Stack, a pair of twins that find them way back to back in the South. They had moved away to Chicago. Then they fought in the war, but they're now back in the South to start their own kind of juke joint. And they also have a cousin, Sammy Moore, played by Miles Caton, who is son of a preacher. They call him Preacher Boy. And the preacher is Jebediah, played by Saul Williams. They take him on their wing to help be one of the performers at the juke joint. They also get Delroy Lindo, who's an amazing player as well, to be a part of it. Cornbread, Omar Benson Miller to be security. They also run into some old friends. Wunmi, Annie's character, who's one of Smoker Stack's ex, before he left and went away to help make the food. We also have Pearline, who Sammy meets while they're trying to get the people together, who gets a little, gets an eye for young Sammy and his blues. So she shows up at the juke joint later on, and we have Hailee Steinfeld, Mary, who used to again, Smoke and Stack. They had these former flames that they used to know. She also turns up at the club later. So yeah, they're setting up this juke joint, and along the way, there's vampires that inhabit this area. They catch wind of the music of young Sammy while outside the club, and intend to kind of get that take over his thoughts and his soul, if you will, so he can utilize that to just stretch his vampire wings out to everyone else. So yeah, we have one night of this band of this juke joint trying to start up, but they get attacked by vampires and so on and so forth. And I'll leave it like that. That's your kind of your base story, but there's so much more there. Let me throw it now at you, Eldon. Let's talk about this film, man. So
Yeah.
with that being said, with the base story, thoughts coming out the theater, and then we can start digging into some of our favorite parts of the story and favorite characters within it.
You really hit the nail on the head when you said it was layered. This is such that's like the trailer, it really, in my opinion, it gives you a different sense of this movie. You expect a lot more action and maybe horror based on the trailer, and really like the first 2/3 of this movie, all character build up, which I'm happy with because when things do turn left, you care about the characters. They did such a great job establishing the connection with these characters, especially between Smoke and Stack and a love interest. Especially, and again, you know me personally, so you know this story hits for me, and it did. Like I was crying at the end, and you know why. With Wunmi Mosaku's character, like that connection, what they shared, why he left, even some of her character's practices, I feel a lot of that, personally speaking. So that spoke to me. Even when we got more into Hailee Steinfeld's character and her backstory and their connection between the twin, like you got a sense of this. And Miles stole this movie. When he started singing in the car, I was like, whoa. I was
Yeah,
not expecting that
and the
at
looks
all.
that Michael B. Jordan's character gave him,
Yeah,
like that astonishment when your boy, like you never knew somebody have a talent like that. He
right.
really expressed himself like, oh my God, this is like the voice of heaven right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's such a young soul to really encapsulate the blues. But overall, I was saying this, I was talking to a friend of mine who did not have as great of experience with the movie, but of course, the way I was being told, a lot of it's probably influenced the fact it was a bad date. So I'm like, okay, I get it. But I was saying I love this movie as a period piece. It really encapsulated, at least from what we know, the reality of that. Like it was so steeped in reality of the time, from how people spoke to each other, how people dress, and Ruth Carter did the dress for that, so she's amazing. The racist undertones as well, but also there was a line when Miles's character asked Smoke and Stack about Chicago, and he heard there was no Jim Crow. He's like, "Don't believe everything," and I'm butchering this, but he's like, "Don't believe everything you heard. Chicago is just like the Delta, just with skyscrapers."
Yes, exactly.
And like
Exactly.
that line spoke to me because of, I guess, in a lot of ways, how, without getting on current stuff, how history is interpreted by the people running things compared to what our oral history as people of color. And I love the fact that you did not see just black people living together. You also saw these other characters of other ethnicities. And what got me more than anything, that connection with music to life, and how that brought death to door. And the scene where I believe it talked about how music um not just speaks to the past, also speaks to the present. And you had all of these different genres of not just black music, but other cultures as well. I was in awe of that scene. Like that was so beautiful to me.
Yeah, everybody and their mama talking about that scene right now. A lot of my filmmaker friends that we share on the socials, just how that bridge of time
Yeah.
and how he moved the camera in such a way and to the beat of the music to mix that mixtures of
Yes.
sounds and sights in such a way, and then also to recreate that famous painting that we know from Good Times,
Right.
and
Right.
the like, just was phenomenal
Right.
and awe-inspiring.
You talk
Yes.
about how it was shot, and there was and again, I'm not like this big film geek. I just love movies.
That's me.
But the shot when Annie left the store to go get her mom, how like is a behind the shoulder shot, and you see her walk across the street, talk to her mom. She turns back around and comes back over with her mom in tow. I was like, is this just like one continuous shot? Like I was just so in awe how he did that, and to not break scene, to continue the story from one side of the street to the next and back. Like that's one of those little things like this that really captured me as far as immersing me in the story. It never took me out of the story and out of what was going on from the film.
Definitely. Just phenomenal work.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of pre-pro. So again, like what I said, shout out to Ryan Coogler, but he also loves and respects his team. Bringing back Ruth Carter, for wardrobe, bringing back, I'm
Right.
sure, a lot of folks that we're not mentioning. That's why mad love to
Yeah.
everybody
It's like I said, it's a
behind the
village.
set. Yeah.
Let me tell you another thing I love though. The practical effects.
Yes.
There was the blood spurting. There was when Delroy Lindo is a national treasure. Okay.
National treasure.
Like, national
Shout out to
treasure.
Delroy Lindo, man.
Like,
That interaction with young Sammy, he was like,
yes.
"Hold on, brother, don't play your guitar right now. This is my
Yeah.
area." That was really cool right there. Remember that? It was like
Yeah.
he was
Not
ready
that
to play. No, sir. This is my area right now.
I think we've talked about this, but I've talked about others, how there's some actors you love them, but you always see them in that role. He is one of those character actors that morphs into his, like it's still him, but you forget it's him. And I love that. Like as soon as you start talking, and when he brings out the Irish beer and how like his whole dynamic, I love that. Like that was so cool. But that scene, there's a scene where he cuts himself and you see the blood spurting out. And I was like, I love this. Like the gore, the practical effects, like it makes it seem, again, the movie was very grounded in realism by the period it was set. And its effects were continued to be grounded in that. And I love that. That never, it was a fantastical world, but it's a world where you thought this could have really happened by the way it was shot and how they chose to show things to us as an audience.
Definitely. Let's talk about Michael B. Jordan.
Okay.
Dual role, making himself different as Smoke and as Stack. Let's give this man his flowers, brother.
Yeah,
what did you think of Michael B. Jordan, bro?
I was one of the things I was really looking at. We've seen a lot of twin stuff over in our lifetimes. I was really looking at how they shot some of the scenes with them together. And I know there was one scene where one of their faces was really in frame where the other ones wasn't. I think Smoke is the one where they had the hat. So it was like one scene where his head was down and the hat was like this, and you couldn't really make out his face. And Stack was the one that was talking. He was close in the frame. Like those little nuances of things I kept looking at, even when they were outside of the door and one was inside and one was outside, and that conversation. What really got me was the confrontation at the end and the duality between them, even with some of the changes that had happened. They still conveyed that brotherly love, even though there was this now feralness, I'll say, without saying anything else, that was not present in one of the characters before. And it was so cool. But speaking of which, there's one thing I loved going to that. I love the vampires. I love the drooling, that feralness, that like that little touch was like, that was brilliant for me to show. Like it was like you see them as, man, these suave, like I just kept thinking of like Harry Potter Parseltongue. and being able to like really convince like their prey to come into them. And once it had snared them in, you see the drool coming down. Like they knew we were about to feast. I so loved that little touch. There was so
Yeah.
many little things in this movie I just loved, man.
Yeah, they always try to make it sexy, which vampires are kind of, there's that
Yes.
sexiness aspect to it, but there also is that feralness aspect. So sometimes
Yes.
I think they knew to put that in the right areas, and it was still sexy. It's just, yeah, it worked. So shout out to Michael B. Jordan, the two women, Hailee Steinfeld, Wunmi Mosaku, who plays Mary. I know I'm messing up her name,
Yeah.
and also Jayme Lawson, who Sammy kind of connects with as our young blues player.
He
Can we
pushes
talk about the
buttons. He
strong women
pushes
in the film?
buttons. He
Was
pushes
that?
he pushes buttons. Sammy's pushes her buttons.
Yeah, he
Y'all see
pushed
the
the right
movie and know what
buttons.
it's all about.
What'd you think about the women who did immaculate work in this film as well?
No disrespect to Hailee
Oh,
Steinfeld.
and also let me give a shout out to Lee Jun Lee, Grace
Yeah.
Chow, and her husband who gets picked up,
Included.
who wanted to
Oh,
go save her
can I
daughter.
tell you, I loved their conclusion. It
Yeah,
was so beautiful in how that happened. But I was telling you before we started, I don't know what it was. Jayme Lawson was looking so good. And Umi, she was looking,
Ume
there was this
Masuku. Let me get that
there
name
was
right.
this transcendent beauty about her and the way she was presented, especially her dynamic with Smoke and that connection they had. I felt that connection. I felt that um the love that they both shared. Actually, no, I'll say this. Both Smoke and Stack, when it comes to their respective love interest, as you saw the story, you saw that they really left to protect them.
Yes.
And I've talked about this when it comes to like Casablanca and how Rick sends Elsa away because of he really loved her, but he knew that Victor needed Elsa to continue his work. Like this, one of those sort of things where like these men saw like, hey, especially with Haley Steinfeld's character, like there was an aspect of I can't be here. You need to do this. You need to do this to make sure you're okay. Because being with me, you're not gonna be okay. And same thing with Umi's character. Sort of the same thing, especially after the dynamic between them and some of the events that happened between them. Like he's like, I have to go in order for you to be okay. And the selflessness of their actions when it comes to these two women that they loved so deeply. Like I felt that. And that again, that is not something you expected from that trailer. You didn't expect this character, this depth and this connection, coming into what you would think is, oh, this is just, Ryan Coogler's on a vampire movie. Not saying it would be great, but you wouldn't expect this much depth.
Definitely. I cared about every character. Also get Lee Jun Lee, and her husband Yao. You know, you cared about them and the daughter being able to survive.
Yeah, I love
We don't
I
know.
love them. I love their dynamic. Let me tell you, everybody was so well cast. And
Yeah.
not just that, the dialogue everybody had made sense. It
Yes.
fit their characters, it fit their circumstance, even with Lee Jong Lee's character toward the end and sort of how her actions sort of set off a chain of events to end the movie.
Yeah.
I get why that happened. I get why she was in that state. You know what I mean? I can see any of us being in that sort of state
Yeah.
after witnessing what she witnessed, and then it's like, forget it, let's go, let's do it,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Um, Nobody was out of place in this movie, and I loved it.
Definitely. And Cornbread.
Yeah,
Shout out to my man Cornbread, who we've seen in other projects, and just it was great in here. The head of security over there. Let's go into the vampires, sir. Who are our vampires? Jack O'Connell, Remick, our lead vampire, and then I'm missing the other two vampires that he got to join him and then infect everybody else. But what did you think of our Irish vampire and just the way that music played throughout as
yeah.
well, sir?
I loved how it wasn't just like blues.
Yes.
And like I said before, there was such a intertwining of music representing life, almost as if the vampires were trying to live through music in their quote unquote death. And Jack O'Connor was great. He was charismatic. He was creepy all at the same time. Um, he was in some aspects of the movie, he played defenseless to dupe people, which was, really, really great. I really enjoyed him. He was a great villain. And then I forget the other two vampires that were with him.
Yeah.
There was a creepiness of it. And then as look, it was a vampire movie, other people could change too. So you don't even know who. But the creepiness that all of the cast embodied all the cast that, became vampires, like it was them, but it wasn't them. It was almost like a Star Trek reference, like a mirror universe version of them. It was a blackness that while it was still them, you knew they were different. You felt they were different. And that came from their performances. I really enjoyed. And again, the Irish, again, I can't stop saying how much I love how music was incorporated into this movie.
Yeah.
And especially with the scene with the Irish jig and him dancing. One, that lets you know how old of a creature he was as well, with some of the things he was saying. So he'd been around for a long time. He'd seen a lot of things. But I just love the incorporation of that. It also, it's weird. There was a lightheartedness in that, but also a creepiness to that aspect as well. And I love that duality of scenes like that.
Definitely. So with that being said, again, we're talking layers, sir. So from the music aspect of using it as a tool, this is another really thing that I appreciated that Ryan Coogler established with this villain, this vampire that's been around since the dawn of time or whatever, right? Or however you said that. It's just been around for a while, but so old and knows what to utilize to expand out and keep him living and his species living. The power of music. He caught wind of that from Sammy, which attracted him to that. But also to use that as a tool to, again, move further along his species, but not also knowing the preacher boy aspects. But then how Ryan used that as a tool from what Sammy's trying to escape from under the whim of his father as the preacher boy, and how music is the devil. And in literal sense, we have the devil utilizing music.
Yes.
But also religion. I'm not sure how you are with religion. Religion is a very divisive thing with a lot of people. But what I really love that Ryan said and brilliantly stated, before religion came to us as people of color, we had another religion.
I love that line. I love that line.
That has always affected me, sir.
Yes. I love that, which is why I love how Umi's character, she had the African mysticism, the African traditionalists, or whatever aspect of they were really showing us for whatever you want to call it, the spirituality where you're very much connected to the earth and the spirits and the ancestors. I love that aspect of it as well, and also how that came to serve some of the characters during the course of the movie. I love that, and again, it was enough without getting too much into it. It also didn't make it look like it was hokey, if that makes sense. There was a respect to it. And again, I don't know how accurate it was, but there was a respect to it, even in the way it was depicted.
Definitely. I think it was a tool because he knows the audience. He knows the people. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that are very divisive about religion. We know the current Catholicism Christians out here right now that claim they're Christian or whatever, but they don't even have the, what I'm saying? But again, to me, as somebody who's been involved with Christianity and raised Catholic, though, it's been a tool of the white man for many a generation and all of that, and pushed upon us as the invaders, colonizers came to our countries and took over us and made us now Christians and Catholics and all of that. Yeah. But there's just so many beautiful layers there that I loved how he approached it, utilized it without being over preachy about it. You just looked at it. This is this man dealing with this and his father, his family that's helping him, still find himself in music because that's what he loves, but also how Evo was utilizing music and religion to broadcast his message and move that later on. Just all of these things, and he just lets you decide and formulate what side you want to be on and just see for yourself. That is what I really loved and appreciated. And the fact that the name of the film is called Sinners, sir.
Yeah, it was so appropriate. So when you really watch the movie, like, this is such an appropriate title.
Most definitely. Did you have any negatives? If we have to put anything in there before we close this out, to me, it's 2.5 hours that didn't feel like 2.5 hours.
No, it
And I
didn't.
wanted more.
Yeah.
You know, if there's anything negative, I wanted more, but they fucking gave us 2.5 hours. And by any other time, I would be mad as fuck. Why am I sitting in this theater?
Right.
But it didn't feel like it at all, sir. You know?
Yeah. I told somebody the movie is so well paced that I did not feel like I was sitting there for 2+ hours. Like I was immersed in this movie from beginning to end. The only downside of this movie, to me, is that mid-credit scene. I felt like by doing that, there was a humanity that was established, and I think that took away from some of the things that happened early in the movie. That's just my opinion.
Ooh.
That's my opinion. Because the way we saw certain characters and how they acted, then to see that at the end, and there are now like there's understanding and consideration and respect. I'm not saying it was horrible. I just felt like it was a bit of a letdown considering the rest of the movie.
Wow, I'm kind of surprised on. I thought it was interesting. I don't know. I went either way on that, but I was like somewhat surprised, but then not surprised.
Yeah.
You know, but he made a deal, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was very interesting. It was cool to see them both in that current period gear.
Yeah,
that was cool to see.
The high top, that in the Coogler sweater, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
I dug that, but yeah, I could see your point in that.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not saying it was horrible. Like I said, if there was anything I would critique for that movie, that's the only thing.
Yeah. Overall take.
I thought this movie it's the best movie I've seen all year.
So far?
Yeah, that's the way I'm feeling. It was,
if not gonna be the top film for the
it was so good from beginning to end. Like I said, it did a really good job as far as building characters. So when things did happen to characters, you felt for them. I'm also glad. I was really the Hailee Steinfeld character, considering she is a white woman. In the context of the movie, well, technically,
mixed. She's mixed.
She's Octoroon.
Yeah.
But my point with that is, again, this is without seeing the movie. I was afraid that there would be sort of the standard trope with a white woman. While it was her fault, saying anything, but the fact that there was so much backstory to that character, there was so much connection to that character, even as far as her genealogical makeup and conversations, I really appreciated that, because having that, you remove that trope that someone would come in expecting of, oh, one of the twins or is involved with a white woman, or this white woman comes in to this black establishment and then everything goes wrong because of her. And they even addressed some of those things as well.
I thought that was great. Yeah,
me too. And that's one of those things where when you have smart writing and you understand the period that you have these things set in and the reality of these things, all of those sort of questions, all those sort of tropes were addressed through very smart dialogue and circumstances.
Definitely. So one of the year's best for me as well, sir. Trying to think of all the films I've seen thus far. I watched a lot of films with all these projects that I do. Definitely in the top 3, I gotta say. Very, very pleasantly surprised. Again, had worrisome with Ryan doing his own thing, but Ryan proved himself and had all of his people again, as always. It's a very inspiring film, man. I want to dive into more of this.
It's a great film.
Yeah. The music, the visuals, the acting, just everything, just 10s on all ballots. They hit 10s on, man. So shout out to Sinners, dude. Before we get up out of here, man, how can people check you out with Webster Style, with what you got going on, sir?
I'll say this one thing.
And one more. And if you got one more thing.
the fact that you're getting this sort of movie from a genre picture is, I think that's why I went in with certain expectations and I was blown away because it's a genre picture, and for it to have this much depth, heart, like it just blew me away in that regard. And that's why even more so I'm like, this is a genre picture and it is such a good movie. It's not a good horror movie. It's just a good movie, period.
Definitely.
And I definitely recommend, whether you're into horror movies or not, I think this is a movie that most people will really love to see. Like, and see this in the theater. Don't wait for this to come to streaming. See this in the theater, because this is definitely a movie you want to see in the movies to have that immersiveness. I really think a movie like this, if you wait to watch it at home, you will lose out on something, personally speaking.
I hear that. All right, I had just thought of another question since you got me going real quick, because you are a vampire stan, sir. Where does this fit in the top 5 of your maybe unthought of vampire film series lists?
Oh,
does this crack the top 10 and or top 5?
This is one of my top 5. Like,
going in the top 5
in no particular orders, like Fright Night, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Sinners. What else could I put up in? I don't know. It was like Fright Night's like my favorite vampire movie. Well, yeah, kind of my favorite vampire movie.
Okay.
But there are just so many great vampire movies from the, even like I put in Monster Squad in there too, just because. But Sinners definitely is one of my favorite vampire movies ever. If you just go in genre in that. Oh, there's one other thing too. I love the horror elements. Like there was that one scene that, you know what I'm talking about, it reminded me of The Thing, and the blood test scene, and I love how that was played. Also, there were. And this is not something you see so much in vampire movies, but there was sort of a zombie element to it with how things tended to play out. And I really love that sort of juxtapose of it, because you don't ever really think of that scenario when it comes to vampires, and to have that sort of back against the wall, all these, vampires and whatnot, very much like a sort of zombie scenario. I really love that as well, and I think that helps I'm not saying it hasn't been done before, but I think it's not something you see often. So I think it really helped to subvert the tropes of a vampire movie, but they still held to the same thing: garlic, sunlight, stakes to the heart, silver. So they didn't change the vampires as far as what we know of them, but they made them unique, in my opinion. And that's hard to do, and the fact that they did it was just brilliant.
Definitely. Yeah, I appreciated those, especially the testing scene of eating the garlic or whatever.
Yeah.
That was pretty dope, and how that kind of played out. Yeah. All right, y'all. That is my man Webster. How can people check you out online? I see it right behind you, but let them know if they just kind of driving right now and hearing this.
You can find me everywhere pretty much on social media, Webster Style. TikTok is _Webster Style. But anything and everything that is Webster Style can be found at websterstyle.com.
There you go. That's my guy, Webster Style. I'm Kuya P. You're on Nerds Rule the World. Let's talk about it in the comments below. Go check out our other videos, interviews, reviews, reacts, The Checkpoint, Kayfabe with me and my man Webster Style, all of that. There you go. Let us know what you think about Sinners in the comments below. Peace, y'all. Nerds rule the world.
Pleasure chatting with you. Love to all my nerds who rule the world.
Yeah. Nerds rule the world.
Yes, we do.
Thanks. Nerds rule the world. Thank you.
I love the nerds ruling the world, so more power to you.
Patrick, what up, man? And yes, they do. Nerds rule the world, kid. You know
Yes,
what I'm
sir.
saying? I'm one
Thank
of
you. Awesome. Kuya P, nerds rule the world. Hello. Yes, they do.
Oh,
Nerds rule the world.
I got.
It's in the title of your show, like Nerds Rule the World. Like, I want more Black weirdos on screen, and I don't feel like we ever get to see that very much.
Thank you so much. Nerds do rule the world.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Nerds Rule. Love it.
Hello, Sarah. Hello, Julian.
Yes,
Rock on. I love it. Thank you so much.
It's good to see you. I love Nerds Rule the World.
But yeah, there's a heavy nerd component, man.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you ask me, nerds rule the world. So
absolutely.
And you're right, nerds do rule the world.
We're just the best.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies.
so much.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
It's your boy Kuya P. Nerds rule the world. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you.
They rule the world, all right.
Yes. Take care, Tony. Thank you, guys.